Alright, Evie and I are back with a new Destiny video. She likes to hide directly behind me, so I had to make sure she got her cameo in. I know she's been missing the last two videos, so this is very important, I know. But as we actually jump into the video today, I wanted to talk about a mode that I am not particularly good at, but is going under some changes and controversies and problems all the same. That would be, what else? Trials of Osiris, which has been disabled this weekend after an elaborate win trading scheme from a week ago that involved a lot of players. I think this started in China or Brazil or something, but you've probably heard it by now. It's the whole, like, everyone was wearing hake emblems to signal to other teams whether they were going to throw and win trade or not. Oh, now she's making a real cameo anyway. And she's going to lick my water bottle. But and the result was that about 70% of flawless tickets were people who were getting 0 to 5 kills, meaning they were just doing this win trading scheme. That caused Trials to actually be disabled for half of that weekend, and then this week rolled around and Trials is still disabled again. And it's not exactly, like, the wording of their disabling of it did not really sound great. It sounded like it was going to be disabled indefinitely, not necessarily just for this week. That is disconcerting, and my opinion on all of this is stop disabling Trials. Like, I know the win trading thing was frustrating probably for Bungie's end, and I'm not saying that it's a quote-unquote victimless crime, because it does devalue kind of the nature of Trials loot, especially Adept flawless loot. If anyone can just win trade and get Adept Aeneas Hammers or Adept whatever weapon is in that slot for the week. And yet, I feel like in this case, the solution is worse than the problem. In this specific case, this is an example of something that does not actually affect teams that are, like, legitimately trying to play Trials. This does not, like, take wins away by, like, just actively cheating and using cheats to beat teams or using exploits to hide outside the map or something to win games. It's just people win trading and quitting out of games and switching cards and all these shenanigans that, yeah, it gets some free loot they didn't technically earn, but it's not really affecting the overall gameplay mode and the people who, like, legit wanted to play Trials, whether that's, you know, your top tier streamers or whatever that now have no content to do for 4 days, or just your kind of average player who wanted to get in there and get the loot, or your Trials scrub like me who just wanted the 3-win whatever it was going to be, and I heard it was arms, which would have been my first piece for the new set, and I would have run that, you know, on 3 characters to get the arms for all 3 classes, especially with transmog coming. All I need is 1 copy of all the Trials armor to get the benefit out of that. But it's disabled for everyone because a bunch of people in some, you know, server somewhere are win trading. And generally speaking, like, this is not what Trials needs, because Trials is on such shaky ground as it is. Like, you know, half disabling it last weekend, fully disabling it this week, and then having kind of no real roadmap to when it's coming back is disconcerting. Like, everyone is kind of flashbacks of, like, oh, we're putting Trials of the 9 on pause, and you know, it'll return in the future. And then it was like years later that it actually returned. We don't really want another situation like that again. And it's, you know, when the phrasing is like this, I don't think that's going to happen here, but I don't think Trials should be disabled for more than just this weekend if it's just about this win trading thing. Like, yeah, it's devaluing this loot, but guess what else devalues the loot? That happens all the time. Active cheating, people running recovs on accounts, making them earn gear they didn't get. People being carried technically probably didn't earn it if their 2 teammates are carrying them to a flawless Adept loot and they got, you know, 1 kill the whole run because they're not good. Technically, they didn't earn that, but there's different levels of this, and the point is like, this happens all the time. So just, like, I understand it was a large percentage and it was a pretty widespread thing happening, and yet, like, the mode does not need to be disabled because all it's doing is making Trials feel even more unsteady in its current form, and that's like the last thing it needs right now because of all the other issues it has. And I just don't think that this is the proper solution. I really want to, you know, have the ability to at least attempt it. Even as someone who's terrible at it, like, I get it, and I'm going to lose a lot, and I'm going to get minimal amounts of loot, but just having the option there and then just instead of having it purely shut down, I think is the right call. We know that they're going to kind of be doing some larger trials. We rework. I'm not sure if it's next season or the season after, but at some point they're kind of changing up the reward structure and things like that. I'm also hoping that they're not just going to be like, okay, we're going to pause trials until we do this rework, because clearly the current system isn't working. Like they just introduced a bunch of new loot, some of which is actually really worth chasing because some of the drops are really good, like Messenger and Igneous Hammer, and even the Chain Reaction Sword is awesome. And like I even want the fusion now with the new slide perk or whatever, and the armor sets are really cool. Like I just put all this stuff, you put all this stuff in the game, like don't disable trials even if there are problems with it, because there are always problems with it. And especially in this case, when the win trading thing was just not really affecting anyone but the win traders, like I don't really care if like, someone on the Brazilian server has an Igneous Hammer god roll they didn't earn. Like if these are people that like are not really good enough to go flawless anyway, like I'm not terribly concerned about there being an overabundance of Igneous Hammers or something in Crucible now, like because of this win trading. Like Crucible and Trials in general have so many problems that like I wouldn't even notice, like people getting loot in an unfair way. I mean, I think it was on Fireteam chat where it was brought up that like, or maybe it's TCP, but uh, we have 12-man raids and nightfalls going on right now in dungeons, and like obviously those, it's a lot easier and a lot quicker to do a 12-man raid and get loot from the end of that than it is a normal 6-man raid, and that's an exploit. But there, Bungie is like, you know what, like have fun, and like you could argue that those rewards are not earned because you're cheating the mode by doubling the amount of players and doubling your DPS. It's like a cheat code, but because it's like more goofy and fun and it's PvE, it's fine. And like believe me, I'm not saying it should be disabled. I'm just saying they should use the same standard where Trials is this other exploit where people are earning gear they're not supposed to earn through something that is not harming other players in this instance, and yet the entire mode shut down. This would be like if they disabled raids, nightfalls, and dungeons until they fixed the multi-man exploit. Like it's pretty close to the same thing. And I know PvP is different, but like it just, given the circumstances here where people are not just like actively harming other people, like legitimately trying to play Trials, I don't see the harm in leaving Trials online. Like this weekend, okay, I'll give them this weekend. Like it was kind of a scramble to figure out what's going on, but after this, I really don't think that they should maintain it. Trials is unsteady enough as it is, and it's just time to let it run. And if it's a disaster for one reason or another, like so what? Like it's always a disaster to some extent. Like that's part of the nature of Trials at this point. And Trials has so many ongoing issues that a cluster of people win trading, even a huge cluster, like is really not even like the top 5 problems with Trials right now, honestly. Like it's just not. So I think there are a few solutions here. Hopefully there might be some middle ground solutions, like they might have to disable the rejoin feature, which is kind of how you do this. Ideally, because that's a good feature to have, like just normally for connection issues, but ideally you would make it so like you can only rejoin with the same character and you can't switch characters, which is the whole point of this. They could even do something kind of obnoxious, but would still solve this by just like making armor the repeatable farm drop for a couple weeks, like just so people couldn't really farm god rolls of weapons. I don't know if that's ideal, but at least it wouldn't disable the mode. I feel like there's just a lot of things that they could do that wouldn't necessarily result in the disabling of the mode. And even if they couldn't do anything, I still think it's better to have it online than not. This is coming from someone who like is not really even a big Trials player, but I've just watched the struggles of this poor cursed mode forever. And if they disable it like one more time, like it feels like it's almost going to be the last straw. And I think that there are ways around this without disabling it, especially in the current context of this kind of non-active harm exploits, even if it's annoying them. So we'll see what happens next week. I don't know what fixes they may or may not be able to do by then. My guess is that they will do some sort of like short-term fix, like maybe disabling rejoin, and then we'll see it back. I would be very surprised and bummed if they just kept disabling Trials until they figured this out, because like win trading is like as old as time, and you're not going to just eliminate win trading outright. Like I know it was kind of widespread this time, but what are you going to do? So hopefully we see Trials come back. Hopefully we can start earning loot at like a somewhat reasonable pace with all the issues it's had. And we'll see what happens. But, you know, it's always something, like every other week there's some new problem with Trials. So we'll have to see where this goes from here. Until then, I would just have it come back. Just, you know, have it be the disaster it's going to be. But that's all I got for Trials today. I was talking about other minor inventory currency complaints in my article today, so I split this up. I was going to do an article on this, but figured it might be better in video form. And yeah, just I will see you guys later. And I don't know what I'm going to talk about this week, but I think we'll have some new story developments come Tuesday, even though we're in the kind of blank spot of the current roadmap. But the things are still happening, so there'll be stuff to talk about. But yep, all right, I'll see you guys soon. Take care.